information can be gathered through sight or sound, and people will look if it's valuable information. They'll begin to investigate with you. So all three are going to have their own werewolf story. Tim Berry, Mr. Shaw Walnut, and Christopher T. Gellert, which I'm going to have to talk about Christopher T. Gellert. Gellert means to learn, or it means taught, like already taught. It's a German word. I took German. Gellert, okay? Christopher T. Gellert. He's a new character. Possibly maybe the Christoph Waltz character. Sorry for the confusion, Christoph Waltz. I know you get this stuff every day. You're an actor. You're brilliant. Here we go. The one story that I have about a werewolf was I started this whole Grace A.K. Werevlog. And I had a feeling that something would come visit me, or something, I would come across something. So I used to do online delivery. I was a delivery driver for like Favor and Grubhub and all of that kind of stuff. I think I may have been doing Grubhub. I may have been doing Favor. I'll have to find out. But I was kind of off course. So I was already in Fort Worth when really my area was more like the Texas Motor Speedway and stuff. Why I was there, I don't know. But I had come across this apartment complex, and I drove into this apartment complex in the middle of the night. I have it on video. It has the word fog in it. Okay. It may have been debunked by Grim Life Collective or whatever, but it has fog in it. So I immediately turned the camera on and started filming the fog because I thought that was cool. It's probably the time when I was talking about Coppola, or at least thinking about him. And I'm filming it thinking of Dracula and all this stuff. Like, what is this that I'm filming? And all of a sudden, I come over to the area of the fog, and there is a gash in the ground. It's in the soil of this apartment complex. It just looks like a long kind of gash, a possible hind leg. And I'm thinking to myself, is this, is this a possible shapeshifter that had landed, and that was the print? And so I'm just thinking to myself, and I started getting these chills, and I kept looking at this gash in the soil of right next to the sidewalk in the middle of this apartment complex at nighttime. It's at nighttime. All this fog was just like coming up from that area, more like Predator or like an alien or something. I think there's a hint in Grace A.K. Werevlog that these are actually this is like an alien more than a werewolf. Okay. So I'm like, what in the world? So I film it. So it's there. It's in the vlog. So you have to look up Cole Spivey fog. It should come up and you can watch it. Okay. So I captured something. That's my story. That's how I told it. It's not like Robert Shaw telling it from Jaws, but we all have stories that we tell. So the three characters tell these types of stories. They personally come across a werewolf. Now, maybe I go Christoph Waltz. You're going to play Christopher T. Gellert. It's a new character. I just wrote it. It's going into Grace A.K. Werevlog. And what is your werewolf story? We will definitely do that on site of film if Christoph Waltz signs. And same with Wallace Shawn, and same with Tim Berry, which is Jim Carrey, right? If they all decide to meet and do this thing, right? I'm going to give an example, just like Quentin Tarantino does. First, let's look at this real quick. It's Trade River, and it's a skyline, but there are no go-karts going right now. So Quentin Tarantino says, well, look, I'm taking from this movie. That's fine. Orson Welles hated the homage. Orson Welles hated it. Quentin Tarantino loves it. So I would say this is the scene that John Milius wrote for Spielberg, okay, for Jaws, when Robert Shaw tells the story about, is it tiger sharks? And they have the doll's eyes, and how he would never wear a life jacket again. So that's his story, which is a dangerous story, because that could possibly kill other people. The story could. You always wear a life jacket, no matter what, regardless of the sharks. Okay, open water is scary. It's the scariest one that you can get to when it comes to Jaws. There's a film called Open Water. So there is a way to get it. Now, in my notes, I wrote down, need a John Milius okay? And I need someone that makes fun of egg rolls. And that's obviously, I'm talking about Quentin in my notes. I don't know if they can read it or if they hear them now. Because Quentin would be the John Milius. Now, would he do it? I don't know. I know he's been a ghost writer. And I know he knows Christopher Waltz, okay? It's a possibility that he could come prepared. Now, did that happen with John Milius and Robert Shaw? Maybe. But did that movie succeed because of that monologue? Yes. The movie succeeded because of Robert Shaw's monologue. Because of, this is cool right here. Because of the commitment that Robert Shaw gave. He was a novelist. Robert Shaw wrote novels. He has them published. They're hard to find. If you find one, they're probably worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, or at least in the thousands. I can't find them, not even on digital. But Robert Shaw was a novelist. And here he is quoting or memorizing someone else's, a screenwriter named John Milius. Sorry, I'm being captivated. It's a werewolf story, okay, on the long run. Despite the techniques and the advantages, and I know that Quentin Tarantino's style in filmmaking is very kind of standard. He's not that fancy. But his writing, his dialogue is extremely genius. So would I say, hey, Quentin, write Christoph Waltz a monologue. Be sincere. Think of Robert Shaw. And think of Jaws. Because by far, Jaws was supposed to be a failure. Because there was no way they're going to pull off this mechanical shark in the water. Have you read Grace, a.k.a. Werevlog? Okay. That is Bruce itself. So, we get one good monologue. Christoph Waltz nails it. And we have ourselves a werewolf movie on the level of Jaws, maybe. Do we see the werewolf? Very rarely. That's called for in the script. I write it that way. I say it now. We very rarely see the werewolf. We see mostly the shadow of the werewolf. One of the titles of the movies was supposed to be The Shadow of the Werewolf, right? So it's Grace, a.k.a. Werevlog, because they vlog and stuff while it's happening. Now, they don't vlog this moment. The moment that they're sitting around in the back in the feed store, that's a private moment. So they don't take out their cameras or their phones, you know, and vlog it. But they're probably all three vloggers anyway. Okay, it's kind of almost in this world, everyone's kind of like a vlogger. Now, if it doesn't happen, then we'll construct one Apocalypse Now style, the way Francis Ford Coppola did for Marlon Brando, and get something out of Christoph Waltz that will be kind of frightening. A story, a campfire story, think of that, about a werewolf, just for a moment. And it's the three guys listening to it, all right? So that'll be a scene. I don't really want it in the beginning. I don't want it in the end. I want it in the middle. So that way, just like Spielberg, put it in there at the right moment. Now, Spielberg's Jaws is genius because it's technically genius. Because then the shark comes and gets him. So he knows exactly when to bring in Bruce. When to bring in the shark, right? He knows when to do it. And that's why that monologue worked. So that doesn't happen in this story, though. Because afterwards, it just continues on the plot. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. So that's what I have for you now. When does the werewolf attack? It's very, like, sudden when it happens. It just happens. Like, there's a favor driver that pulls up, and he just gets ripped right out of this, out of this van. And that scene, I need technical help on, because you have to read it in the script. The van goes into a pond, very Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock Psycho, and it just kind of dips into the pond. We're in the information of age, so we're in the information age. That's why we talk this way. It's not abnormal. All right, you got me on that note. It took me 9 minutes.